Alrighty, it's that time again. We're going to start the Mastering the Art of Dry Brushing, Explore Textures with ORKs, expert tips and techniques. At least that's kind of what we're hoping to do. So let's take a look at the desk and see what we're going to be doing. Kind of moving around, we got some stuff going on here. So we'll kind of be going back and forth. Steve, welcome to the Varied Life, and what we're going to end up doing first is we're going to go ahead and we're going to pop onto YouTube, and what we'll end up seeing is hopefully we can find out and we can see the live stream. So yeah, we're going to check out the live stream here, and then that way we can keep track of the messages. So yeah, there we are in the live stream. We're live, and when messages come up, I wonder if we can make that bigger. Maybe? No? I think that's about as big as it's going to get. So go ahead and make sure that the volume's off. We'll put this up here in the stand, and hopefully I'll be able to see that. Anyway, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to practice airbrushing. Not airbrushing, but dry brushing. Dry brushing is something very interesting that I'm running into that I really just don't put a lot of time into. For example, what I ended up doing is usually just kind of taking a black figure, and if you look at this black figure here, what we can end up seeing is you got the shadows and things like that, kind of a zenithal, but really haven't done a lot when it comes to, you can see how it's bright from the top, but haven't really done a lot of dry brushing. Pretty much just ended up doing the airbrush, but I want to practice up on the dry brushing so that we can get, here's another example of, the airbrush with the black as the prime, and then just kind of hitting it with the light on top. So that's a good way to do it, but there's something to be said for getting this stuff and actually practicing with dry brushing. So one of the tools that I found interesting was to make I didn't make this, but I found a texture palette that I found online, a free texture palette. It was either on Colt or Things 3D, things.com or whatever. Printables, put texture palette, dry brush palette, and you could probably find a number of these. So this just finished printing out. We still got some of the glue on there, but that printed out well. And then we have a number of figures. First of all, we've got Mr. I guess that's from World of Warcraft. So we got him going on, and then we have some other things as well. We got, does that guy look familiar? Yeah, he looks familiar. It's from Lord of the Rings. And then of course, everybody knows who this guy is. So we might do him, and then also have a Warhammer figure that I've had forever and a day. And it's been prime black, but I haven't done anything with it since. So we'll definitely hit one of these. So I think we'll start with this one here. And from what I've heard in regards to dry brushing is that of course you need a dry brush. And when I practiced this before, it didn't really turn out that well. So yeah, we're gonna end up kind of doing some stuff. First thing we're going to end up doing, do I got any cups? Do I have any cups? I think I got some in the other room. So much for being prepared. I'll be right back. Don't you love it when you're not prepared? Well, I think what you can end up doing, where did all my cups go? I must have cleaned out the room. I don't know. Anyway, what we'll end up doing, now is probably a good time. What we'll end up doing is we'll do the top-down view, and that'll give you a good little view. I'm not going to show my face on this video. I guess we'll just have to use this as our little container. So we'll just pick out one of these, that one right there. And what I found with dry brushing is that a lot of people would say, you know, get the paint, thin out the paint, and then have your dry brush, and then have it on a dry paper towel, and then it really, really gets dry, and then you put it on your model. Well, I don't know. I tried that for a while, and then some other people that we find online that do really good airbrushing, they say that the idea is to actually wet your brush. So we're going to end up doing, so we got this cheesy little water thing here. And so it's got a little stopper, so we'll do this, and then boom, it'll drain right in there, and then we got a pool of water that we can use, so we'll just set that off to the side. And what we can end up doing is getting our paint, and with the paint we're going to mix this up a little bit. But the whole idea of dry brushing is to get a little bit of paint on your brush, and as you go over the textured areas, kind of like in this texture palette, the raised areas will catch that paint, and so it's going to highlight the high areas, and so the crevices and the places, so you don't want to get it so wet that you just soak all the paint in there. We definitely don't want that. So let's see, I'll just go ahead and we'll put some paint in there. Man, that's really thick. That is super thick. And we're using some matte white in case anybody's wondering. So we use the matte white, and we're going to need some water. So we're going to get a little bit of water. We're going to thin this out. And what we'll end up doing, I think we'll just end up mixing it like so. Man, that stuff is just so thick. I think we got that enough. I don't know. We'll figure this out as we go along. So anyway, the whole idea is to have your palette, your texture palette, and you'll get your brush. We'll just go ahead and we'll dip that in there, get that a little wet, and we'll just put it in like that. So we'll get the paint onto the brush, and then what we ended up doing is just going back and forth on our texture palette so that you can kind of gauge, and we can see how that is catching the highlighted areas. So you can go back and forth like this. The other thing is you could also go in the opposite direction, and we've got a lot of paint, so it looks like we're basically, it's too wet. So we're just kind of just go at it, and it might be just too. The other thing you can do is go in a circle. It might be too watery. I think that's what it might be doing. So let's go and add some more paint to this. And that's why we need to practice, is to kind of find the consistency, kind of like milk supposedly. But then we'll just kind of dab that in there, just brush that, and then that's a lot. but we can kind of see how it's hitting the surface areas, and we're still getting some paint on there. So now what we'll end up doing is just take the back, and what we'll end up doing is just hitting it back and forth. See how we're starting to hit the highlighted areas a little bit, the edges. We still just kind of want to hit the edges on how we do this. And so there we can end up seeing that's turning out pretty good, I think. I don't know. The whole reason of practicing. Just to get those edges. That's a lot. That is a lot. So I'm trying to get used to the camera angles as well, because this is a new kind of setup for me. So we're getting a little bit of definition in there. So we get the raised areas. And don't worry about the areas. See, I'm still trying to, let's move this over. Is that more center? I think that's more center. Yeah, because the camera's right there. Don't worry about trying to get every single black area on here, because like underneath and stuff like that, what you're going to end up doing is that's going to replicate the shadows. So the highlights is just going to be on the edges, and then underneath you're still going to have all the black. So at least that's the plan. This also ends up bringing about the point of speed painting. Now I don't have any speed paints, but I've been watching some videos on speed painting, on the Army speed painting. Wow, that's really coming out, isn't it? Look at that. But the speed painting, I think I'm going to get some speed paints. Because with the speed painting, it just looks like a really quick way that you can paint a lot of stuff and get some pretty good results. And then with the dry brushing, you'll be able to get some more depth out of the colors. So yeah, how's that turning out? It's turning out not bad. Definitely a lot better than the black that we had. So yeah, I am digging this. Not bad at all. So this will be interesting to take a look at. So yeah, I'm definitely digging this. And this would be interesting to see with the speed paints, which now I'm getting kind of excited about. To get another set of paints, as if I need to spend more paint. So yeah, this is turning out pretty good. I mean, it's just a huge difference. And I don't want to overdo it, but then again, I don't want to underdo it. Try to get these edges. How's that coming out? That is not bad. So, something to be said for the dry brushing. Like I said, what I ended up doing with the other characters is just end up just doing the airbrush with the zenithal, so we still have the black underneath, and then with the white over the top, so this could work out really well. But we can get kind of the same thing with the with the dry brushing. It's just a little bit more pronounced with the airbrush, and what we end up having there. So if you, there's a good view there, so you can see it's kind of washed out because of the light a little bit, but you can see on the face as you look down you got more shadows. So yeah, let's see how that goes. Is that like too washed out for the light? Seems like it is. Maybe if we darken it up a little bit. Let's see how that goes. So yeah, I think that works. And then let's go ahead and we'll do this guy here. Do the cave troll. Again, I think what we'll end up doing is we'll just do our don't want it like totally wet. Start on the back and see how we go. Definitely need more paint. So yeah, a little bit of practice. A little bit of practice. But definitely speed paints would Now I'm just really tempted to get some speed paints. But those Army Painter speed paints, they're a tad expensive. So I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll get them. Probably soon. I think I've got some money squirreled away somewhere. I'll just have to put it in the bank, and matter of fact, I know I do. So yeah. This is kind of relaxing. So how's that turning out? Turning out not bad. Try to put the paint on where you would try to highlight. So kind of like on the peaks of everything. So yeah, there we go. This is proving to be interesting. So the other thing to check out would be how this works for like speed painting. So now I'm really starting to get interested in speed painting. Because this is just, I'm just seeing the possibilities here as really, really neat. And I could see the draw for it. Because painting miniatures is time consuming, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it can be a thing, that's for sure. Wow. Imagine the grays and everything that you could put in there, and the metallic colors, and then like the green, and then the chains and all that stuff, and then the stonework on the base. That would come out really good. A little bit of highlighting on there. Running out. So yeah, I think that could come out pretty darn good. So yeah, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Still just kind of yeah. Okay. So I think that's what we have. I think we're good with that. So, a little bit of practice. I don't know if we compare the two, which one looks better. Is it the World of Warcraft orc, or is it the Lord of the Rings? Kind of tell me which one it is, which one you vote for as far as results. That would be, I know my hands are shaking, but I'm old. Give me a break. So, yeah. Let me know in the comments section what you think. And vote on this. I know this isn't my normal streaming time. Usually, because I'm in Korea, usually I do it in the morning, and that ends up being a better time for a lot of people because it's like the afternoon or early evening in the United States. But yeah. So this looks really interesting. These are all resin printed, by the way. So this will be an interesting little thing that we got going on here. This guy came out really good. And I think that's because there's more more ridges and more areas that paint can catch, more recesses. And with this guy, we just really don't have that much. You know, we got some edging and stuff like that, but really we're kind of limited on what we have with this guy as far as details. I mean, we got little things like the chain and stuff like that, and then kind of the teeth. We did get some edging up on his helmet area, so we got some contrast there, but I don't know. Can we squeak out a little bit more? That's pretty watery. Maybe we can get some little edging in there. Yeah, a little bit more. It's a little watery. But yeah, I think it works out okay. Yeah, that's kind of watery there. We can still get some edging on there. So yeah, that's how we got it. So the interesting thing I'm definitely going to be buying some speed paints now. Not only to do these guys here, but to do like these guys as well, because basically with the airbrush you can see all the black underneath there. So those are the shadows, and then with the zenithal kind of shooting up from above, the paint coming down. Just like I put it, just a little bit too much on here though. But we still got some good shadows on this as well. So I think speed paint would be good on this because we do have some contrast on this. So that would be good. Of course, then we could put some there, put a bit too much there, but yeah. Worst case scenario, you repaint it. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So that is our dry brush practicing, and there's definitely a couple of different techniques that you could end up doing. You could end up going just back and forth. You could end up going in a circle with some of your features on here. You can practice on your dry palette on getting those certain areas and just getting the highlights, and of course the distance that you have from, just like getting the edging. You don't want to press this in there and get everything, but you want to be able to just kind of hit the tops of some of those things, and so that can come into play, and we can actually see we're actually getting a little bit of, still got a tiny bit of paint on there, but you can control the distance of the brush with your model and just getting those highlight areas instead of getting the whole thing. So I think that's another part of the skill that comes into doing dry brushing. So with that, I think we're just going to go ahead and we're going to call this good. I think this is a good first one. I think what we'll do is we'll come back on second part 2 video, because I'm getting pretty hungry and it's dinner time. So we'll do this guy here, and then we'll also do this guy as well. I think these will definitely come out. This one has I mean, that's a ton of detail on this guy here. So I think we can get some really great results with that on all the details. And then even on this predator, because we have so many raised areas, like on his hair and stuff like that. He's got a little broken hair there. I need to fix that. But, you know, all these raised areas, that could really come out really nice. So this is one of my first, not one of my first resin prints, but it was one where I hadn't dialed in my resin, and so yeah, it's a little wonky, but yeah, it still came out pretty good. You know, you never know the difference until you picked it up. So, but yeah, that's what we got going on, and I think we could even fix up his hair. I'll go wash that. What we can end up doing is here we've got some Green Stuff World UV resin. So this is a little bit of a bonus. Consider this your bonus material. So you can see that we got this little break right there. And what we'll end up doing is we just put that on there like that, and then we have a UV light, and so the whole idea is to kind of move this so it looks halfway decent in there, like that, and we do the UV light, and that resin will harden just like it did there, and we are good to go. So now that's good. I don't see any other. You can see we got some paint chipping off of this. Well, there's another one that's broke right there. Yeah. So this is one of the older ones that I ended up doing. There's another broken one. Man, got me fixing all kinds of stuff, don't you? Let that get in there. Just throw the UV light on there. There's a bunch of cracks in this in the paint. That's what it's highlighted. We should probably paint it again, but that one's fixed. Do we have any other broken hairs on him? His dreadnoughts, dreadlocks, whatever they are. That one's kind of, yeah, we got that one right there. We can kind of fix that as well. Coming down his chest. And don't shine the UV light in your eyes. That would be a bad thing. So yeah, but you can see the cracks and stuff from the paint. It's just kind of a cool little. I don't know if we can see without the light. But you can see where and this is where you can see where that we actually got cracks in the resin, because I guess it just didn't cure enough, and then I painted too soon over it. But it's kind of a cool looking thing we got there. But yeah, it is what it is. So, but I think he's fixed her now. So we might end up doing another coat of black on him to fix him up. And then the other guy, I don't know if the other guy's, Is he the same way? He's not too bad. He's a lot better. So anyway, that's what we end up having. We finished up doing our dry brush practicing there, and I think those two guys turned out pretty well. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave you all, and we're going to call this a day. And yeah, I think we're done. So we'll let these dry. I'm going to go ahead and order those speed paints. I'm going to do that, and it'll take a week or two to get here from the United States to Korea. So yeah, these will be one step closer to getting painted. So yeah, really looking forward to that, because my pile of shame is really rough. And with the speed paints, it's so much faster painting with the speed paints. You know, I've got some little miniatures that you can see there, and just trying to get all of that is just insane. So, but the speed paints should be able to get us a little bit quicker to reduce our pile of shame, and you can practice your dry brushing. And if you just go on printables, if you go on things, if you go on Cults 3D, I'm sure you can find, or STL Finder, that's another good website that you can go to find a little texture palette that you can print out for free. This was all free. I'm cheap, so yeah, it is what it is. So that's going to be it. Like and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. You have the email address that is down below. I answer every single email. The people bought me coffee. There's a link in the description box for that, so you could do me a solid that way. Other than that, scrolling ticker, awesome people bought me coffee. Like doing the hobby stuff, as I'm a retired veteran American expat in Korea. And with that said, we will see you on the next video. All right, peace. And that is it. We're going to call it a day. That is it.